Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make this 3D widget that you can interact with your player. And when I press left mouse button, I am able to interact with the button. And as you can see in the top left, you can see that it says third button was pressed, first button was pressed, and second button. Obviously I got the order wrong, but we will fix that. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna create today. It's all gonna be all in C++. And yeah, let's just begin. Okay, here I have my first person template. As you can see, if I press play, it's a normal first person template that comes with Unreal. So what we're gonna do now is create a C++ class. So go to the file, new C++ class, and create an actor. And we're gonna call this menu menu actor class, and click this public private separator and create class. Wait for it to compile. Okay, the compiling is done and my class is created. Okay, and now here in the header file we're gonna create our variable. So it's gonna be u widget component, and it's gonna be a pointer. I'm gonna call this interactive menu semicolon, and because I'm using Rider, it's gonna automatically include the necessary header file, as you can see here. If you don't have Rider, you need to type this out. So it's gonna be hash include components slash widget component.h, and that should be it. So let's go to the CPP file. In the constructor, we're gonna create this component. Basically, we're gonna initialize it. So it's gonna be interactive menu equals create default subobject, and we're gonna need to put these I don't know what these are called, less than greater than sign. It's like a template. We need to specify the class that we are creating. So the class is uWidget component, and here in the parentheses we need to specify the name. So it's gonna be a string text. We're gonna call this interactive menu. Put a semicolon, and down here we're gonna set the draw size. Set draw size vector. It's a vector 2D vector. So the first parameter is float x. The second one is y. I'm gonna set this to maybe like 600 by 300. Of course, we can change this from our blueprint, and I think that should be it here. So this first, next thing we're gonna do is we have to create a character class so that we can set up our necessary functionality so that the player can interact with the menu, with the widgets. So in order to do that, we're gonna go to File, New C++ class. We're gonna create a character. Next, we're gonna call this. I'm just gonna call this my character. Doesn't matter. Set this to public and create. Wait for this to compile. Okay, here is my character CPP and my character.h, which is our header file. And here we're gonna create a couple of components. We're gonna do a couple of things. First thing is widget interaction component. This component, what this does is it's gonna do a line trace into the world basically automatically. It's already built in. It's gonna do a line trace from wherever you put the component to. So if the component is attached to the camera, it's gonna do a line trace from the camera. It's attached to the gun, it's gonna line trace through the gun. And we want it to line trace from the camera so that the center of the screen is where we can interact with basically. So let's go to the file again. It's going to be a pointer. Again, I forgot that you need to include the header file. It's include components / widget interaction component. So we're going to call this interaction component, and we have to construct this. We have to create this here. Interaction component equals create default subobject. Just like the last time, put these signs, and it's gonna be widget interaction component, basically the class that we're creating, and we're gonna specify the name. So it's gonna be text quote, and we call this interaction component. Don't forget the semicolon. And down here we're gonna set the interaction source. So it's called interaction source, and it's an enum. So widget interaction source, we want it to be from the center of the screen. Of course, you can also set this to world. The difference between those is that if you set this to world, it's gonna line trace from wherever it's placed. So if the component is placed like down here, like here, it's gonna start line tracing from here. So you can't interact from your camera. If you set this to the center of the screen, it's gonna automatically line trace from wherever the camera is looking, which is nice. So that should be it there. And we're gonna need to do one more thing here. In the player input component, we're gonna set up some input so that whenever we press a certain button, we can interact with the widget menu. So we're gonna say bind action, specify the name, text, and I think it was called fire. I'm not sure. Let's go to the project settings. It's under input. Basically, this comes with the template. It's an action mapping. If you don't have this, just create on the click on this plus button and you will be created this. So it's called fire. These names should match, otherwise it's not going to work. So it's case sensitive. Here we're going to specify the event, so it's pressed, and we're going to specify the class the object that calls this function, and it's going to be this because this is the class that's calling this function. And here we need to call a function, and we haven't created that function. So let's go to the header file. Under the public section, I'm going to create it here. It's going to be a void because it's not going to return anything. I'm going to call this interaction, or actually button pressed. And we're going to create one more function called void button released. Okay, let's implement these two functions. I'm going to use the rider tool that basically just creates this function for you. So generate definition, and let's create this one too. Generate definition, and here we have these two functions. Let's move these down here, and here we're gonna call this function button pressed. So put the and sign. This and sign means that it's calling the address, the memory address of this function, and we're gonna say my character button pressed. We're gonna do the same thing for the button released. So copy and paste this. Let's clean this up a bit, and we're just gonna change this to button released, and also change this one to IE released. And now whenever we press the left mouse button, these two functions will be called. So we need to do something in these functions because right now they are empty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna call a function on this interaction component. It was called press pointer key, and it's asking us for a key. So we're gonna say e keys. It's an enum colon left mouse button, and basically this should be the same button as the button that you have defined here, left mouse button or gamepad, doesn't matter really. And in the release we're gonna do the opposite. Interaction component pointer release pointer key, and it's gonna be e keys colon left mouse button. Okay, that should be it. What else we need to do? I think that's it, so let's just compile. Okay, the compile was successful, so let's go back to Unreal. Let's close this down, and let's open up our character blueprint. Here I have my character blueprint, and we need to change the parent class of this class, because right now we're not able to use this class that we just defined here. So we need to change the parent class, and the way we do that is go to the class settings, and here on the parent class we're going to change this to my character class, which is a C++ class. And as soon as you change that, you're going to see that this component has appeared here. This is the interaction component that we just created. And actually, let me just go and make that editable, because we can't edit it here right now. Yeah, there's no details. So let's go to the my character.h, and let's say u property, and say edit defaults only. Defaults only means that you can only edit this component in the blueprint editor. You can't edit this in the instance like this. For example, if you clicked on this character, you won't be able to edit the component here through the instance. That's the difference. So edit defaults only, and blueprint. Actually, let's set this to read write. Let's compile this now. Blueprint read write means that you can get information through this component and set information through this component. The build succeeded, and if I click on this, you can see now we can edit this, which is nice. Okay, we actually don't need to change anything here. So let's just save and compile. Okay, so we are done with the character, and in our menu actor class, basically this is where we're gonna place our widget. First, let's set this to editable as well. So edit defaults only, because we might want to change some values in the blueprint. Compile it. Okay, it's done compiling now. Let's go to the Unreal, and we're gonna create a child blueprint class off of our menu actor class. So we're gonna choose the parent class here. It's gonna be menu actor class. Make sure to highlight it and click select. Menu actor class BP. Open this up, and here you can see we have this interactive menu that we are just inheriting from here, our C++ code. And because I have set this to edit defaults only, we can change these values here. And let's actually create a widget for this component first. So we're gonna go to the user interface, widget blueprint. We're gonna call this menu. Okay, so in our UMG file, I'm just gonna place some button here. Make this a bit bigger. Set the anchor to center. Duplicate this and duplicate it again, and that should work. So let's go to one of these, and unclicked, we're just gonna print a string. And also click all of them and go down to appearance. Change the pressed color to something else, like maybe green. Also change the hovered color to something like red, so that we can see what's actually happening. I think that's all we need to do here. So let's just close that down. Go to our menu actor class PP. Select this component, and we're gonna set the widget class here. So we call this menu, and it's a bit too big. The rest of the button is not showing here. I think that's because of the draw size. It's not big enough. So let's go to the widget again, our menu, and let's actually set this to custom, because we want to see how big it needs to be. So I'm just going to set the X to the width to 1000, and the height to maybe 800. Yeah, that's going to fit. Compile this, go back to our menu class and change this from here. So 1000 and 800, and there we go, there. Let's make this a bit smaller. And let's drag this menu into the world. Oh, sorry. Let's drag menu actor to the world. It's actually facing the wrong way. Actually, let's place it here. Okay, let's test it out. There we go. Now we are able to interact with this from our camera, and if I press left mouse button, you can see that it turns green, which means we are clicking it, and this happens to all of them. And you can see that the top one, the print string actually gets called, so this is actually working. You can put some code in here, like do the rest of your code that you wanna execute, and yeah, that's just it. It's working fine, and goodbye.